moment here, folks. All right. Looks like we have a transmission. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, with this Drive Time Update Edition. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, PO Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. On the web at thefullertoninformer.com, 5gdangers.com, celltowerdangers.com, a lot of other .coms, folks. Gonna go ahead and get right into the issues here, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got a doozy of a show for you tonight. So good afternoon, good evening, or even good morning to wherever you are on the face of this plane under the firmament. On this day which the Lord has made, may we rejoice and be glad in it, and may we redeem the time, because the days are evil. Because this is an evil world, folks, and things are really awry here. They're really off of God's plan because of the power of evil that is enabled by the power of cowardice and the bondage of the fear of death that has people gripped into a form of catatonic existence that yields submission to the agendas. So there are a couple things I want to talk about tonight. It's always a pleasure to be here and educate you. And I want to thank all of you out there who like to call me names and make fun of me, because that shows that I'm getting through. And without any resistance, you have no progress. So, you know, we're going to go up against a very institutionalized form of insanity called the mainstream thought that is literally forced on everyone beginning in kindergarten and going all the way through their adult life, through their immersion in television, broadcast exposure, print media, and social media, and, you know, the algorithms that control what you see on your screens. I'm going to come here and tell you what most people find very hard to believe, but once your eyes are open, it makes perfect sense, right? So we had the broadcast the other day when I kind of went off into discussion about the firmament, the shape of the earth, but I wanted to really kind of open up here and talk about the moon. You know, ever since I was a child, I was fascinated by the moon. It was a lot more visible back then because the air was clearer in some circumstances, but also the amount of light pollution was far less than we have today. And it used to be so much more crisp in the night sky, but it always fascinated me. And, you know, I remember looking at it so many times that I swear I saw a face in it, you know, and it never seemed to move. I didn't understand it much as a child. I remember what they told me in school about the thing, you know, and how it's supposedly rotating and spinning, and we see the same side of it because of the rotation speed of the moon and the rotation speed of the earth apparently coinciding to yield the net result of it appearing motionless. Right? Well, that's what they tell us. Anyway, I always was intrigued by the moon. I always used to focus really hard on it and try to, you know, make out what's on it. I remember having a telescope. But, you know, I'm convinced that the moon is a reflection of the earth, and you can see, if you study it carefully, you can see all of the land masses on earth in the moon, in the reflection of the earth on the moon. And now with the advent of technology that allows us to investigate things, question things, you will clearly see that there are a bunch of land masses that exist that they're not telling us about, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. I believe that the moon is some form of plasma that has an uncanny ability. And by the way, the moon's also translucent at times. You can see through it. okay? But by the way, did you learn about the fourth state of matter, you know, plasma? Did you learn about that at school? Did they teach you really what plasma is? Do I have to show you a plasma ball and hook it up to a battery and show you what happens? Well, look, the moon reflects the earth, folks, in great detail. And the continents or the land masses on the earth are reflected on the moon. You need to do your research on this one, because this one is really something that will captivate you. You know, ever since the dawn of civilization, man has always sought to explore his world, right? And ever since I was a child, I always wanted to explore my world. I remember, you know, venturing out past the cul-de-sac and then eventually going over to other cul-de-sacs on my bike, and then eventually going down the alley, and then eventually crossing the busy street and going to other places. And heck, I remember going trash digging behind some of these stores and venturing out and going even further and trash digging into other shopping centers, right? You know, I mean, and then as I got older, I traveled to different cities. I went to different places, and eventually as I got older, I've even traveled to different countries and states. But man has always had a spirit of exploration and adventure. And so what we have today, very interestingly, is we're being fed lies that we live on a spinning ball. We're fed programs like Star Wars and Star Trek and all of the Space Odyssey, programming, the spinning ball, the globe, you know, the stuff on the kindergarten teacher's desk, the first grade teacher, second grade teacher, third grade teacher, fourth grade teacher, fifth grade teacher, all the way until you lose your mind staring at the globe, right? And I keep forgetting to put it in my car and dump some water on it and spin it around and throw it through the air and see how much stuff stays on the thing, right? But it's a joke. Because I think, what are they saying? That we're flying through space at 10,000 miles an hour, and the Earth is supposedly spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Well, you know, I don't care how much brainwashing you got. I don't care what kind of grades you got in school. I don't care how smart you think you are. And I don't care how much of this theoretical crap you think you understand. But I'll tell you right now, if this thing is moving at 1,000 miles an hour, then all I need is a hot air balloon to get to Miami. Because all I got to do is get off the ground and wait for the thing to turn underneath me. Okay? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, yes, space is a vacuum. But yet, nothing gets sucked off the Earth, right? Oh, it's because of gravity. Oh, but gravity can't hold a mosquito, but it holds oceans. But, you know, the vacuum of space doesn't suck out all the air, right? But yet the vacuum in my car sucks everything off the ground, including the nickels and dimes I drop, right? Come on. All right. So, you know, enough said. I had to throw that in there because, you know, the sky is blue. There's water up there. The host of heaven. I mean, well, God has made the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. And, you know, Warner von Braun, the rocket guy, you know, the guy that made all the rockets that eventually go up and hang right because they'll hit the roof if they keep going. It's on his tombstone, folks. He knew. He knew. And then you got all these criminal interpretations of the scriptures that take out the word firmament and change it for expanse or the sky. I'm sorry, but you know what? Expanse doesn't show handiwork of anything, but a solid structure supporting waters above it clearly show the handiwork of God. And there is water up there, folks. Lots of it. And during the great flood, when God wiped everybody out because the wickedness of their heart was evil continually, he broke open the fountains of the deep. That's right, the primary water under the ground. And he opened the windows of heaven and let the water in from above. All right? So that's what he did, and that's why we have a tear in the firmament called the Milky Way, where the water came in from. Do you understand that's why that's there? That's why that exists? It's not some funkadelic thing from space. It's not some gas plasma blob in a vacuum. You understand, ladies and gentlemen? So I want to kind of come back down to earth because there are some serious problems with the monopoly that the educational system has over the minds of the masses. And like I continuously talk about, the reason why education is so heavily funded and so heavily legislated and so extremely carefully mandated on such unsuspecting innocent people, namely children. You know, when you have something that's compulsory for young children as young as 5 years old, that's some pretty serious control, folks. That's some scary stuff, all right? I mean, they make your child go to school when they're 5 years old to learn their version of reality, okay? And that includes all the agendas and the lies. Whether it's the fluoride that's good for your teeth, whether it's the spinning ball that doesn't lose the water, or whether it's the germ theory that says that you can get sick from some microscopic thing that floats through the air that looks like the limb from the faked moon landing from 1968, right? Or now it's a dog chew toy picture that they show, and you know, that's supposedly COVID. And then, you know, they got these other things that got longer suction cups on them that they call other stuff. Now we've got this thing called the H5N1 bird flu virus, right? And this is the magical virus that apparently has been allegedly found in these animals like birds, who, by the way, don't have any symptoms. They're flying around doing their mating calls and flying through the air and breathing, and their heart's beating 300 beats a minute. Their wings are flapping around, just carrying them through marvelous maneuvers in the air. And they're supposedly, you know, living a wild and free life, and they're supposedly flying around. Now they're contaminating everything with bird flu. And now they're saying that the bird flu is getting into the chickens and the pigs and the cattle. And then the chickens and the pigs and the cattle are picking up this bird flu. And they don't have any symptoms of it either. And they're, you know, they're sitting there eating and belching methane and making milk and beef and poop and everything else. But the real threat is to the humans who are exposed to the animals, right? Because it supposedly has a 50% fatality rate, even though it doesn't kill the birds or the cattle. The only way the birds and the cattle are getting killed is by the governments who are going in and exterminating them, because some guy with a funny accent that wears a white coat that has a couple of letters after his last name that no one can pronounce on his butcher's outfit have come in there and said, using really neat, fancy, long words, as they call themselves epidemiologists or virologists or public health expert or scientist or biologist or a microbiologist, and they come in there and start using words like public health and contagion and controlling an epidemic and vaccination and quarantine and lockdown and masks and police powers and Model State Emergency Health Powers Act and all kinds of suspension of rights and evisceration of humans' ability to travel freely are all brought into check by a dog chew toy picture with long suction cups being added to it. And it's all because you were taught to believe this stuff in school. You know, folks, I can tell you right now that if the bird has the flu, he ain't going to be flying through the air. And if the cow's got the flu, he ain't going to be sitting there chewing his cud and making milk. He's going to be conked out. And if the chicken's got the flu, you'll know it because they'll be slobbering and snotting all over the place, right? Oh no, cock-a-doodle-doo, and out comes the egg, right? As they peck their head up and down 100 times a minute, getting all these microscopic minerals out of the dirt and eat roly-polies and turning trash into eggs. Unbelievable. And they got you thinking that asymptomatic animals are picking up some microscopic genetic material that can self-replicate and jump the species barrier and infect and kill you. And that's education, folks. You know what's really sad is I was forced into education by my family because my mom and dad thought that was the only way out of poverty. Well, it certainly was a way out of something. It was a way out of my sanity when I was younger, because everybody becomes a little insane when they're in school for too long, all right? Those are facts. But what happens is if you stay in school for a really long time and then you go into work, into these institutions that are connected to academia and the scientific community, which is really nothing more than a pagan religion of occultic, esoteric, Kabbalistic, ritualistic human sacrifice, a form of Molech and Baal worship, a form of Saturn worship that is satanic at its core, as the basic fundamental precipice and principle of education is atheism and scientism. I mean, come on, really? You're doubting me, are you? Do you really doubt the things I talk about? You have a right to, but that doesn't mean you deserve to claim complete and unfettered access to the truth, because you don't have it. It's unbelievable, all right? It's unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen, what they've been able to pull off, but here's the big problem. You see, based on this narrative that they're rolling, they're playing with it right now. They're rolling it around. They're getting it ready. You realize that if they can convince the average schmuck, the average knucklehead, the average circus clown, and the average man, woman, and child that really doesn't question anything, that watches television, that believes what they were taught in school, that believes what they see in the movies, that believes what they read in the newspaper, that believes what they hear on the radio, that believes what they've been exposed to in the magazines and in their church groups, and, you know, all of this stuff. If they believe this stuff, the germ theory and the existence of these things called viruses, then we're in for it, folks. And we're in for it big, because let me tell you why. Their plan, I'll tell you right now, if you're going to listen to any part of this video in 18 minutes, you need to tune in right now. Their plan is to roll an outbreak, and they'll just zap the birds out of the sky with the cell towers or the ground-based Doppler installations, and they'll just run an electromagnetic attack, beamforming attack on the birds and say it's a bird flu. And then they'll come and then they'll kill all the chickens and the cows and the pigs within a 50, 100, 200, or 500-mile radius, close down all the meatpacking plants, and shut down the food distribution, and lock you down and make you wear a face diaper and roll up your sleeves for another version of the Certificate of Vaccine ID-19 2.0. And they will come out and say, you know what? It's no longer tenable for you to grow your food or to raise livestock or to have farms in nature. We've got to control the livestock. We've got to control the poultry industry, the meat industry, and even the aquaponics, the fish farms, and everything else, because they're telling us the bird flu is being found in these fish stocks, so they can get us onto the lab-grown meat and get us into plant-based protein. 19 minutes and 30 seconds and I'm done. That was it. All right? So do you understand what I just said? This is all by design, and it only took a minute and a half for me to put it out for you. But that is the meat and potatoes of this 10-course meal I've just given you. And these people aren't playing games, folks. They have plans. They're doing drills with the military and the police and the sheriffs, and even foreign troops are involved. And they're going to force you to stay in your home, and they're going to get you used to not trusting the food supply. As they zap animals with electromagnetic weapons, they could poison livestock and say it's a bird flu. There's many ways to make you sick. You know, if I drop your potassium levels, you know, by like, I don't know, 1 decimal point in 1 digit, you'd start having AFib and palpitations and blood pressure spikes and arrhythmias. And you would think you were going to have a heart attack and you were going to die. And it's all from the manipulation of a simple electrolyte level in your blood. And that can be done very easily if you're in a hospital on an IV drip. It's very easy to poison animals on a farm. It's very easy to poison a water supply. It's very easy to do a lot of things to make it look like something else is the culprit. Okay? My point is that is one of their plans. And they ultimately want you to eat lab-grown meat so they can feed you tumors. They can engineer cancer cells into your steaks by making a 3D printer use the raw material, the gelatinous substances of cancer cells, HeLa cells, and, you know, I guess I might as well go into this. Or do we still have an audience here? How many of you are out there? Will you get the likes up, please, to get this video to kind of take off a little bit, and tell your friends to tune in, because we're getting into the weeds here, and they're going to be kind of fun. All right. Push the like button. You guys know how to use your thumbs? All right. I think there's about 700 of you in here right now. All right. So, the HeLa cells are cells that were harvested from an African-American woman's ovarian cancer tumor many years ago who worked in the tobacco fields. And the tobacco plant has a very interesting property. And, you know, this was something that was studied in great detail. But the tobacco plant has an amazing ability of absorbing toxins in the environment. And it'll take even radioactive particles out of the atmosphere and toxins out of the soil and concentrate them in the leaves. And consequently, that's why tobacco is a carcinogen, folks, because it's a repository of toxins. The leaves are amazing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that nicotine by itself in its natural state is horrible. What I'm telling you is that the tobacco plants have an amazing, uncanny ability to collect poison. And this poor gal, you know, working the plantation, she developed this massive, super duper tumor in her uterus. And so these cells have become a patented line of cells called HeLa cells that scientists to this day continue to propagate and grow and use for medical research. These things grow like wildfire, but they're cancer cells. They're HeLa cells. That's what they call them. They're named after this gal. Okay, that was in honor of her, right? Her contribution to medical science, which unfortunately is being weaponized and used against us. But what's to stop these companies, excuse me, that are developing these gigantic digesters, these vats, these production facilities that are working on lab-grown meat to use poison in with cancer cells in the protein mix? How do you know what you're getting? You don't, and you won't. And here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. They're going to stick stuff in there, and you're never going to know, and they're going to blame the virus or some boogeyman for everybody getting sick when they're poisoning you. This ain't new. This ain't some new technology, folks. This is Soylent Green. And 50 years ago, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios put that movie out in 1973, and it took place in 2022 or 2023, I think. And it opens up with everybody wearing a mask, and you can't even get meat. You got to eat these wafers because everybody on the Soylent wafers. And they were telling everybody it was plant-based, algae-based, when in fact it was being made out of dead people that were killing themselves. Well, we're getting into a situation where, you know, if they run the bird flu thing and people fall for it and they roll up their sleeves and they put their masks on and they go lock themselves in their room and watch Netflix and microwave their Hot Pockets and wait for the government to tell them to go to the bathroom. They're gonna empty the grocery shelves, folks, and it don't take much, because let me tell you something. When the meat and the cheese and the milk and the eggs are gone, people are gonna go berserk. All right. So, while you're chasing money and working on your career, trying to get the latest and greatest Tesla in your driveway with the latest and greatest weaponry that they can use to commandeer and remote control the car and make you back up into a pond and lock you inside the thing so you can't get out and you drown, or they want to run you into the center divider to make it look like an accident. Meanwhile, back on the farm, they're working on weaponized lab-grown meat. And, of course, they're using your children's minds in the colleges to do the research, and they're putting them in the think tanks and using your tax money to bring people in from overseas with 180 IQs to go work on these projects and give them 5-year scholarships with a full bed and breakfast, with housing and everything else, to develop the lasers and, the CRISPR technology, if that even exists, to, beamform the birds out of the sky and make the poison to make the lab-grown meat and put the coloring in there and make it look like a ribeye, and you're going to put it on the barbecue and you're going to taste it, you're going to eat it, then you're going to start burping, and then your body's going to tell you, Joe, this probably wasn't a good thing to eat. And then, you'll know you ate something that ain't digestible, but nonetheless, that's all that's going to be there, because there won't be any natural stuff, because they will have shut down all the farms, because they're going to say that the farms aren't feasible, they're not sustainable, there's too much methane coming out of the cows' belching, there's too much pollution and industrial runoff from agricultural operations from these places. You can't have a chicken farm, you can't have a chicken in your backyard, you can't have a chicken coop, you can't have tilapia in your pond, you can't have salmon in your fish pen, you can't have cows on your land, you can't have pigs in your backyard, because they have all been contaminated with the bird flu, because the sparrow, the blue jay, the finch, the hummingbird, or the pigeon, or the mourning dove, or the crow, or the raven, or the mockingbird, or the owl, or anything else that just decided to fly by that was asymptomatic, took a couple of poops and dropped the virus particles all over the land, and now everything's contaminated with the bird virus. The H5N1 strain that's going to make everything infected, but no one's going to have any symptoms in the animal kingdom, but the people are going to have a 50% fatality rate from exposure. And then you wonder what the real fatality rate's being caused by. And then you look around, and then you see the cell towers having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 layers of antennas on them. And then you go walk into buildings and you see the Wi-Fi routers getting bigger with brighter blue lights and more antennas on weird stuff. And then now they got these flat panel millimeter wave antennas built into the wallpaper and the television screens that will be broadcasting at the frequency of oxygen molecule absorption. Oh, we have all the suckers in position, right? That's what they're going to say, because they do. And you knuckleheads, you're filling your shopping cart full of poison and weaponized technology when you go out shopping, and you're driving around your weaponized cars with your weaponized headlights, with your weaponized radiation chamber, and you go home to your weaponized radiation chamber. Do you even understand the frequencies that they're using in these things? Oh no, you just think it's chic, and you emasculated jackass men that go along with this and don't stand up for your families. You're going to have blood on your hands pretty soon. I don't know how much time we got left, but I will tell you this. It's not enough time for you just to sit back and think I'm crazy, because I'll be honest with you. If you think that this bird that flies through the air, that chirps and picks seeds out of a pod on a weed plant, or a wheatgrass plant, or eating bugs off of a flower, I mean, these birds are amazing. The songs and sounds they make, the maneuvers they pull. And you think these things are contaminated with some virus when it's as healthy as a horse and flying around and as happy as a clam. And that bird supposedly has a virus that can contaminate the fish and the chickens and the cows. And then the chickens and the fish and the cows don't have any symptoms. And so the only thing that the government decides to do is to kill all the fish, the chicken, and the cows. So there won't be any meat, there won't be any milk, there won't be any cheese, there won't be any eggs, there won't be any bacon, there won't be any sausages, there won't be any steaks, there won't be any hot dogs. There won't be any of that stuff. Oh, but you'll have your video games, you'll have your Tesla, you'll have your Wi-Fi hotspot, you'll have your Netflix, and you'll have your Soylent Green wafers as you go stand in line for them. That's right, folks. Because what's coming down the pike is going to be a world without your ability to feed yourself. A world where what you eat will be highly controlled, regulated, and manufactured. Do you understand me? Do you understand what I'm saying? Listen to me! This is Soylent Green 2.0 on steroids, folks. And you think that this is a joke. You know what, folks? This is not a joke. What's a joke is what they expect you to believe. Is it true that the average person is a moron? Well, I hate to tell you this, but that's probably the case nowadays. Because if they will believe what I just laid out, and they think that some healthy as a horse bird that's flying around can get the cows and the chickens and the pigs sick, and that the chickens and the cows and the pigs and the birds have no symptoms, but yet they have presented such a threat to our survival that they have to slaughter all the cows, the pigs, and the chickens and the birds and the fish to avoid a 50% fatality rate in people that are exposed to asymptomatic animals. Maybe, just maybe, the level of stupidity of the masses warrants a 50% mortality rate in these people. I don't know. But there does come a point where, you know, I've had cats in my life. I've had animals in my possession over the years. And, you know, some cats are not that smart. And they'll keep going out night after night and getting the crap beat out of them, or they'll just try to go out regardless of the fact the coyotes are after them. They just don't have their sense about them. And, you know, some of these animals don't deserve to survive. And they don't survive because they lack the necessary instincts for survival. Do you know that's what's going to happen to a lot of people? A lot of people are not going to make it because they lack the necessary instincts and common sense. And do you want to know why that is? It comes down to one reason. They're cowards. And cowards are the first in line for the lake of fire. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. It is high time for you to throw off your bonds to the things that induce the corruption, that make you afraid, and that make you guilty, and that make you feel powerless and not worthy to stand in the army of Almighty God. Let me tell you something. Jesus Christ will take you in, clean you up, wipe the slate clean, give you the armor, give you the wisdom, and give you the weapons to fight this battle on the spiritual and the physical plane that we're on, folks. All right. You need to be aware of what's coming. All I ever do is talk about what their plans are, okay? Because it ain't hard to figure them out. All you got to do is maybe stick your head out your window once in a while and look and see, and then walk by and listen to the trash on the television and the radio and see what they're trying to do to everybody. And then look at the crap in the schools and what they're ramming down the kids' throats. It's pretty obvious that all this stuff is working synergistically to induce a satanic demise for a bunch of innocent, unsuspecting people that have been lobotomized and chemically castrated by the municipal water supply fluoridation, the frequencies, and the curriculum. And here we are, as a remnant, trying to sound the alarm. Hours late, folks, but it's never too late to do the right thing. And I'm here to tell you that Jesus Christ will allow you to make a complete U-turn in your life and turn things around, wipe the slate clean, and get up and throw off the sin and the things that held you down and the things that made you afraid and the guilt that has made you live your life 1/1,000,000th of the capabilities that it has in store for you. If you will just yield to him and bow the knee and let his spirit take over your life, you will become somebody that these monsters are deathly afraid of. And let me tell you something. They're still freaked out by him. They nailed the truth to the cross 2,000 years ago, and they're still trying to nail it to the cross 2,000 years later. They hate Christianity. Why do you think there's a war on Jesus Christ? Because you want to know why? He's the light, and the rats hate the light. They love the dark. They love the wickedness because they serve their father, the devil. Folks, guess what? We win. It's us. We're the victors, folks. All right? All right. Get prepared. There are going to be outages with the technology. That's what all this, Northern Lights and Southern Lights stuff is all about. You need to get prepared for this kind of stuff. You need to be prepared for, another lockdown and, mask mandates that are coming. And get ready for another one of these virus operations. And get ready for the food supply disrupted, folks. Make preparation. Go out and get yourself stuff to be prepared for shortages and be in a position to where you won't have to go out and wait in a Soylent Green wafer bread line, okay? This is your host, another broadcast of the Fullerton Informer, Joe Imbriano, coming to you live at this drive time edition here in Orange County, California. Today is May 15, 2024. Signing off in the name of Jesus Christ. I want to thank you all for tuning in. As they crank up the harp and light up the skies, they're getting ready to have a bunch of pigeons drop a bunch of poops and say it's time to kill the cows. Folks, don't fall for it, okay? Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank you all for spreading the word in Jesus' name. Take care.